Senator Turner Ford said, a civil rights lawyer, and I'm also a human rights defender. I prefer to call myself a human rights defender because I think our rights are so much more expansive than civil rights. But the term of art for us who do this work inside federal statutes in this country, we are often referred to as civil rights lawyers. I have also been a veteran in the movement, an organizer for many years before I even came to Mississippi. Not going to tell my age, want to try to pretend like I'm still youthful and not have my detractors use age against me since we're in such an ageist society. I mean, you know, I gotta keep the front up. So the pandemic is devastating Black and undocumented workers in Mississippi chicken plants. It is devastating. And you will also hear this morning from Brother Moses Anton, who is a Tyson's food worker. And we know Tyson's. We're familiar with Tyson's chicken plant. We're looking forward to hearing from our brother Moses Anton as well. Didn't mean to leave you out. Okay, so just a quick one. Lakeisha Wheaton was working on the debone line at a poultry processing plant in Mississippi in April when she began to get splitting headaches. While most of Mississippi's economy was shut down, of course, we know that these workers and other essential workers were not allowed to shelter in place and actually had to go to work while they were ill. So Wheaton and other chicken plant employees continued to go to work at their essential jobs, at least for a few weeks. However, they worked without protective equipment, they worked without protective measures, and some employees reportedly came to the plant while experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. She left her shift at the poultry plant early after getting a headache and went to the doctor. 4 days later, she learned that she had COVID and that her two small girl children also had contracted the virus. Wheaton left her shift at Koch Foods. That's where she was working at the time she contracted the virus. So we are in a state of emergency. We are talking about workers who have no recourse, and those who are unionized, they have much more in the way of job security, but less than 5% of the workers in the state of Mississippi are union. And we're not alone in terms of Southern blight as far as unionization is concerned. We know that North Carolina and South Carolina's numbers are even lower than ours. So I want to bring to you now our sister Brenda Scott, and she will, when she has finished her remarks, she will introduce our sister Tamiko Bell. So Ms. Scott, take it away.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And since COVID-19 got us here this morning, I would be remiss if we did not acknowledge those in our listening audience and on the call who have had loved ones who have been impacted in some form or fashion by the COVID-19 virus. So, yeah, my name is Brenda Scott, and I got a lot to say, but I only have a few minutes to say it. So first of all, I want to thank Senator Turner Ford, the chair of the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus, for allowing us this opportunity to come together. You know, politics is very important for all of those in your listening audience. I got to take this few minutes to try to impress upon you how important it is to be involved in the political process, because everything is about politics. It's about who you know, who you're up there representing, who your constituency is. And I just want to say the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus have always had the kind of voting record and the kind of fight in them on the floor of the Mississippi Legislature to do what is right and just, not only for the public workers here, but for the services that we provide on a daily basis. The one thing that I hope COVID have done is for the public to really appreciate our public employees, whether they work for the city or whether or not they work for the state or the county, because devastated our state. And we found out who are essential workers. Every public employee is essential, okay? So when natural disasters hit, they are the ones that have to deal with the aftermath and the here and now of what's going on. You would think that with people being asked to work shelters in times of mandatory evacuations and things like that, the people who are directly responsible for making sure that our public employees receive the kind of pay, the benefits, and have the rights that they deserve on their job. I heard Jaribu, and we're talking about unions, but the state employees, we don't have what's the collective bargaining. We can't sit down. We can if we stuck together, but we're not really sticking together and applying the kind of pressure that we need for change. And that is why 32 years ago, when I started working for the union, we were at the bottom of the totem pole when it came to pay and everything. And over the years, I've seen the gains, but I can honestly tell you, in the last 16 years, it's been extremely hard for workers to have a voice in this state. And also the people who depend on our services. And you have this class of people who think that, oh, state employees are a bunch of warm bodies and they are just up there getting paid. But let me let you know, state employees are people who work in corrections, mental health, SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, the Department of Public Safety. You see the lines that's outside of the Department of Public Safety, because we have a group of people who are controlling government here that believe that government is too big, it's too bloated, we need to cut it. When you see those lines outside of the Department of Public Safety, just imagine the health department, corrections, all of these other state agencies are suffering with lack of staff, lack of training, working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. I know they do it because I did it as a state employee. I ran from WIC to Moonlight and Domino Pizza for 4 years straight. Not because I wanted to, it's because I had to. And for the last 13 years, the leadership in this state have not felt the need to deal with our public employees. They have not addressed staffing, and things like, we go through these same pandemics and natural disasters that the average person go through. We are public, and when I say we, when I've done it all my life, we're public workers, so we're there to provide services to you. A lot of people, we have a group of people that believe in private school, charter school, private sector, but there's no profit. The only people that profit from what we do are the people that reside in the state of Mississippi. So build that appreciation. But going through this pandemic, we're talking about essential workers. We're talking about the CDC having certain guidelines that should be followed when you're asking people to go to work. There was one that was saying no more than 10 employees, but when I look at agencies and there are 35 people in the same little, just divided by a cubicle, but they're sharing the same hallway, they're sharing the same restroom. And the thing about these essential workers, now there are non-essential workers who were allowed to, shelter in place, and they received administrative pay. That means they didn't take personal leave, sick leave, or anything, and they got their paycheck. But essential workers, regardless of the fact that they have to provide child care, they have to be at home with their kids, they're caring for elderly people, and they are ordered to work unless, of course, certain situations present itself. So when you work day to day under that kind of pressure, and you're working to provide services to the public, because now people are coming in trying to get SNAP, they're trying to get Medicaid, they're trying to get some mental health. You're living in a community where you got correctional officers, and another thing, let me just say this, and I know I'm all over the place because I'm so bottled up. I hate when the governor acts as though the situation in the Department of Correction is new to him. This man has controlled the budget. He, along with Philip Dunn, they control the legislative budget process. They recommend a budget to the legislature, and they got a super majority. They got about 46 Democrats in a House of 122 and only 16 Democrats in a Senate of 52, they have a super majority. And I'm so tired of people putting our friends and our supporters down as though they're not bringing home the bacon to their district. Most of the bills that Senator Ford and the Legislative Black Caucus and the bills that they introduced is in the garbage. Why? It's because it's the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House who determines what bills live or die. They'll sign them, but I don't want to confuse y'all because y'all don't know the legislative process. One day maybe we'll get on here and we'll walk through that. That bills don't do like if you're at church, I make a motion that our membership dues is $10 a month. I second, majority get it, and it's that. No, there's a process, and it's about having people elected who are accountable to you, who are approachable by you, and who are accessible to you. We call them part-time jobs, but they work for us. When they're kissing our babies and asking for our votes, they're doing the same thing our essential workers do. When they go into their Medicaid office or health department and clock in, they are going to work. So they're saying, let me go to Jackson and work for you. The WIC workers, your CPS workers, all of these workers, they hadn't had a pay raise. They're so short of staff. And when you complain about you're not getting this kind of service, you're not getting that. The point is, it starts with the man in the mirror, because that person you gave your vote to, you need to be following them and checking out their voting records. If they vote against something, when you meet them in the grocery store, you should say, I've been working for the state 13 years. What have you done for me lately? And then they throw you a raise in an election year, and you feel like they gave you something, almost like Donald Trump trying to take credit for the $1,200, sending us all these letters. People don't be fooled. A broke clock is right twice a day. So we have to meet these people on the streets and ask them, what have you done for me? Why should I go back? And they have a voting record, so they can't lie to you. Matter of fact, you can sit down at home and watch them on the webcast and see how our people are on that floor arguing like a Baptist minister for what is right and just. And when they're done, vote go to the board. It's all because they got them separated. Democrats on one side, Republicans on the other. I know, I gotta cut it off. But y'all, look, we gotta come back. We gotta do this. But I'm honored. You know, and let me tell you this: a lot of state employees have issues. I woman.
It's time for Tamika. It's time for Tamiko.
I am. Tamiko Bell is one person that will speak up, and she have a story to tell. She works in the Division of Medicaid. She's my friend. Too many of our state employees are silent, but I appreciate her speaking up this morning. And go for it, Tamika. I'm sorry.
No. And now we'll introduce Tamiko Bell. Sister, you're on. And you probably need to unmute. And make sure your camera is operating.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Can you see? Good morning. My name is Tamiko Bell. I am a state worker. I've been with my agency now for 3 years. I don't know what to say. I think I'm kind of like probably other state workers in terms of, you know, our frustration of what's going on in our agency. We kind of like in the dark. We really don't know what's going on. I mean, they feed us a little bit, but they don't feed us a lot. They give us a tad bit of information about what's going on. We don't know about, you know, other people who may have been affected by COVID. You only find out things by, you know, word of mouth, secondhand information. They have given us masks. The first set of masks they gave us, they had a very bad smell to them, and I really don't even think that they should have been given to us. But that's another story. They gave us a second set of masks. They're there. They have given us, no, they haven't given us wipes. It's just wipes for the general office. But if you want to buy your own supplies, you just have to purchase your own supplies and just, you know, whatever. We have did something where we're kind of like separated. We're all in offices, so we're not in cubes, so it makes it better for our office. We can just be in our office and just shut the door, and pretty much everybody just stays away from one another, because you really don't know, you know, what to do at this point. I mean, tell the people what to do, because I mean, you can watch the CDC and get some information from them, but at least as an organization, give your people like pinpoints of things that they can do to make, you know, themselves safe, working in a work environment, and then going home from that work environment. I had an incident a month ago. My brother passed away from COVID. I had just got a phone call just a minute ago that my other brother, who was going to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, he had COVID, but got a negative test the other day. But he just got, when he flew down to Miami, he got a little bit sick, and he went to the ER. They said he has a blood clot. So now he has to fly back from Miami back to DeSoto County so he can go and find out what's wrong with him. So he has a blood clot in his lung. So again, he flies a helicopter here in Mississippi. I mean, it's like, well, what do you do? I mean, what steps do, you know, your workers need to do? I just don't think that they're giving your workers enough information on what they need to do, and you're just out here just on your own. And I don't know. I can't hear you. Hold on a minute.
I do that all the time. Understand. Hi, I'm Jaribu. Understand from Sister Scott that you might want to share with us, outside of your job title, other workers who are state employees and what they might be going through. You still have some time. Please share. If you
in other agencies, I kind of like ask a lot of questions about what they're doing in their agencies, and they're letting a lot of their people work from home. And it would be a great idea for a lot of us to work from home. Some of us have small children, some of us don't. My child is older. I mean, well, she's an adult now. She's 18, so I don't have to, you know, I could work from home. I mean, work from work, but at least give us an option and an opportunity to kind of like hybrid, where one of us is working from home one day and then, you know, somebody else is working in the office. But we're not seeing people, so that make it a lot easier for us, because we are not seeing people in the office. We do everything by phone and online, and it does work. And you see that this works, but we just need to make up a plan, because obviously COVID is not going anywhere, period. We're going to deal with this for a little bit longer, at least for the rest of the year. And in dealing with this for the rest of the year, at least give your people some options, because again, they're scared, because what happens if, you know, 2 months from now you get sick? What are you going to do in place of that person? Because you may not be totally sick where you can't work, but you know, you may be sick. Well, I can't come to work, but I want to work. Give me an option to have a laptop. Let me have an option of bringing my computer home so I can work from home. I don't want to just not work. I want to work, but give us options. And I think that that's like one of the issues for me that I'm seeing, just, you know, from being on the inside. You're not giving your people options. Give us options, because we want to work, but we want to be safe too.
Thank you so much for that. We'll be coming back to you, of course, for other follow-up comments, and also back to Sister Scott. And let me tell you, I hated to cut you off. You know, I'm a Baptist preacher's daughter. You know, you were delivering a sermon. You know, I hated to cut you off. We're on a time thing, but we're going to make sure to have time toward the end for folks to come back and give us more information and more of a charge in terms of how we move forward and the strategies that we need. We hear you, Ms. Bell. We hear what you're saying about the need for protection. We hear what you're saying about the lack of it, and about smelly masks and smelly conditions that workers have to work in, because our dignity is sacrificed. When we have to go to work, we have to choose between our dignity and a paycheck. So thank you so much for those initial comments, and we will be coming back to you. I want to make sure that Luis and Moses are ready, because I'd like to introduce them next. But before I do, we do have some information, and I want to thank, again, Senator Angela Turner Ford and other members of the Black Caucus who've been providing us with the information and the understanding of what's going on at the state capitol. I was privileged to be in a couple of meetings before the pandemic with Senator Turner Ford and other members of the Black Caucus, where we were able to share with them, but they also were able to give us information about the realities over at the State House. And I wanted to thank Derek Simmons for providing, Senator Derek Simmons, who's my senator, for providing information about a proposal that the Black Caucus made some months back, and correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Turner Ford, about this, the Essential Worker Support Fund. And apparently Minnesota, Michigan, Massachusetts, and Vermont have all, developed similar measures. And what it would do is it would establish the Essential Worker Support Fund to support essential workers when they contract COVID, right? And they are ordered to self-isolate due to potential exposure. These funds will provide assistance with wage replacement up to 6 weeks and assist workers without health coverage and with uncovered medical costs. For workers with health coverage, the fund will assist with co-payments and deductibles, as well as up to 6 weeks of wage replacement. Now, surely we can help advocate for that, folks. And any way we can support the Black Caucus and other caucus members who might not be Black, who are in our corner, we want to support them as they move forward to try to get an essential worker support fund, because we know that's dire needs we're talking about. We're talking about people when they leave their jobs because they're sick. They have nothing coming in, absolutely nothing coming in. We beat the dead horse all the time about no adequate workers' compensation benefits. There's so many issues that we can lift up in this period, but I wanted to make sure that our brothers and sisters in the caucus know that we stand ready to support you in your efforts to try to get the Essential Worker Support Fund. And surely if they can provide coverage for employers, when workers are ill, if they can provide coverage for employers, then certainly for essential workers who make up the bulk of the workforce anywhere, in any place, I don't care where you are, if you're in the United States or if you are in South Africa, wherever you are, essential workers make up the workforce. And so it's time for these protections. Ms. Bell, did you have anything else you want to share before we move to the next speakers? Because you did not use up all of your time. I'm just letting you know. And you're muted.
Yeah.
Still having trouble hearing you.
Okay, no, I think I'm done on my end. Again, I just want something, I just want my workers, the people at my job, and all state workers pretty much just to be at peace and not have to deal with this, but at least feel comfortable enough that our organizations are going to stand behind us, because we're standing behind them. In order for you to be a state worker, you got to like being a state worker. So apparently we like our jobs and we just want to be safe in our job.
Thank you so much for that. And now I'd like to introduce, as we talked about those statistics that are just running away, 6,000 plus poultry workers across the country have been infected with COVID. And of course, they are the last to be protected. So we're excited to have on the line Brother Moses Anton, who will be assisted by Luis, who's going to be helping with translation so that we don't miss anything that he has to tell us this morning. Can we get Luis and Moses to take to the screen at this time?
Yes, we are ready. We are ready. Good morning, everybody. Let me introduce this gentleman here. His name is Moises Anton, and he works for many years in the food industry. So I am going to let him to speak about his experience about the COVID.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm trying a little bit in talk in English, but because My English is very, very poor, okay? So, yo me enfermé de esa enfermedad del virus en el mes de abril.
I get the virus in April, the first week of April.
Y la verdad la verdad ha sido unos tiempos muy difíciles para mi vida y mi familia.
And the truth is, has been a very terrible experience for me and for my family.
Porque yo soy una de las personas que dependo de cada cheque de cada semana.
Because I am the person, and my family is the family depends from check to check every week.
Entonces, cuando me enfermé, estaba trabajando en una pollera aquí en Mississippi. Bueno, actualmente vivo aquí en Mississippi. Entonces, cuando de repente sentí dolor de cabeza.
I was working in a chicken plant in Hazlehurst, and here in Mississippi. And one day I started to have really strong headaches.
Entonces, pensaba que era por el cambio del tiempo.
I thought because it's the temperature, the change of the weather.
Entonces, tuve que ir a la clínica.
I went to the hospital.
Entonces, cuando llegué en la clínica, no me atendí, no me quisieron dar un medicamentos para los síntomas que tenía, porque yo pensaba que era unas simples flu.
When I went to the clinic, they don't want to give me medication. I thought I had just flu, but they give me nothing.
Entonces, lo que me dijo la doctora es que tenían que hacerme la prueba si era el virus.
What they say is we have to make you a test for the coronavirus.
Entonces, ese fue un día miércoles.
It was on Wednesday.
Y ya el viernes cuando me llamaron.
And Friday they called me.
Que había salido positivo con el coronavirus.
They told me I am positive.
Y entonces fueron días muy, muy difíciles para mí.
¿Cuántos días?
Fueron 2 semanas, 2 weeks.
2 weeks really terrible for me.
Entonces yo y mi familia.
¿Qué síntomas tenía?
Me dio dolor de cabeza,
headache,
dolor de cuerpo,
body,
no podía hablar, la garganta se me tapó.
Cannot talk because the
Y,
throat is closed.
y sentía dolor de pecho que no podía respirar.
And he cannot breathe.
Y pues nada más me quedé en casa porque fue lo que me dijeron, que solo tenía que estar en casa.
And the only thing they told me is you have to go back home and stay at home, and that is what I did.
Los medicamentos que tomé fueron medicamentos naturales, hierbas naturales.
What I try to do for my health is drink herbs, natural herbs.
Son los que me sanaron, fue la medicina que me sanó.
And it was the medicine that helped me in this situation. Yeah, this part of my part, yeah, they have because it's not only him, but many of the people from Guatemala, because he's from Guatemala, they have a kind of ancient medicine. So because they cannot afford to have a doctor or buy medicine. So this is a mix of different kind of herbs, ginger, eucalyptus, chamomile, different kind of herbs. And that is what they has been drinking all this time to kind of relieve a little bit all this pain.
Y aquí estoy con ustedes contándoles mi historia.
And I am here now telling my history.
Y me da mucha tristeza escuchar a las personas que no tuvieron la misma suerte que yo.
And it's sad for him to know about people who had not the same luck he had.
Y la verdad, algo muy fuerte para mí, mi familia, y tengo un hijo pequeño de 8 años.
It has really tough for me and my family. I have a child of 8 years old.
Y yo recuerdo todavía que él quería entrar a verme en mi cuarto, que me aislé de mi familia, de ellos.
I remember he tried to come to me, but I isolated myself in one room.
Entonces lo que él hacía era que él en todas las tardes me mandaba cartas, me hacía cartas.
So every day at the afternoon, he sent me a letter.
y él decía que no me preocupaba, que ellos estaban conmigo.
And he told me I don't have to worry because he was with me.
Que Dios siempre estaba con nosotros.
And God always has been with them.
Y entonces eso fue algo ha sido muy duro para mí, muy fuerte.
That has been really tough for him. Now, let me ask you this. Déjame te pregunto esto. En la planta que tú estabas, ¿había el suficiente cuidado?
No, en esa...
I asked him in the plant when he think he get the coronavirus. Asked him what kind of sanitizing issues had. ¿Qué tenían ellos ahí? O sea, no.
En ese momento apenas el virus se estaba expandiendo.
Because the virus start to expand.
Entonces la gente todavía no estaba listo. No estaba.
They didn't know anything about it, never ready.
Entonces no había mucho distanciamiento.
There is no distances, no máscaras.
No mascarillas,
no
gels.
No gels, nothing.
Entonces, eso fue muy duro porque todas las personas se estaban enfermando ahí.
And then most of the people who works there, they get sick. Now he's working again after 4 weeks without working. Now he's working in Tyson, right?
Tyson,
Tyson here in Forest. And how is now in Tyson the sanitizing system?
Ahí ya es más, ahí hay protección, ahí te dan mascarillas.
Now they provide masks.
Te dan guantes, te dan
gloves.
Ellos desinfectan el lugar.
They clean the place.
Ellos sí, ahorita sí ya hay control.
Now is more control in that plant. He's working not directly now. He have to work is through a contractor. Yeah, and the problem, one of the problems is because at the moment he gets sick, he don't have insurance. The companies do not help them in those days without any pay. Even he had to start to complain because they don't want to pay him the last week he worked. So that is the situation in all these families, because only because they have friends, family, get together and help them, give them some food, give some money to pay the rent, because they really do not have, and they are not eligible for any government help too, because they don't have yes.
Yes, I want to cut in because I have a question that I'd like to ask him for the benefit of everyone on the phone. You mentioned that Moise is a contract worker. Does that mean he's a temporary worker?
So, ¿usted es como un trabajador temporal ahí a través del contratista o no?
Sí, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of temporary. That is the way now they're using the plants to go around. So they don't have to worry about if they have any issue with the Social Security number, work permit, but they made them work anyway because they need them to work.
Well, thank you for that information. We know that the temporary system is an extremely exploitive system. It's a union busting system. It's an anti-worker system that has people working full-time for temporary status, no benefits. It's a grave injustice done to working people, and we hope to chip away at it and assault it head on to deal with the temporary work system. I will not tell you our Tyson story because I have not checked in on how far I need to go with these corporations. But I will say that there are many, many different struggles that are being waged by Black and brown people in these food processing industries where there's absolutely no protection. And Moses' story, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Moses or Moise?
Moisés, en español. Moisés.
I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly because I do want to honor you and respect you. Our time is short, but what we'd like to do, Luis, is we want to make sure that toward the end, we'll give our panelists an opportunity to come back on. We need to move to the next speaker, but we will be coming back. And I want to thank Luis and our sister organization, the Mississippi Immigrants' Rights Alliance, for providing us with our friend Moises today to speak. And I know when people call me Jaribu and Hubu and everything, I get upset when people mispronounce my name. So please pardon me if I am ignorant because my language was stolen and I'm speaking somebody else's language now. So just thank you so much for bringing our brother Anton on, and we will circle back to you before the end of the program.
I'm sorry, Jaribu, but the thing is he had to go back to home because he had to go to work.
Okay.
So okay. There's no way we can do that.
You'll be around though, right? You'll be around.
I have to take him. I'm going to take him to home, but I will drive him. Maybe I can meet him.
Reality check. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
One more thing. I would like to invite you, everybody, this coming August 8th at 6 p.m. at the Catholic Church in Canton. We are going to have a vigil because it's the first year of the rights here in Mississippi. So everybody's invited. It's going to be a kind of a little bit of music, candles, and try to inform what is the situation of all those families. 680 families at this moment after 1 year of the raids. So you are invited, and we will send you the invitation directly too. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. And that's 1 year since the brutal raids took place, where people were stripped away from their children, stripped away from their livelihoods, and basically made to be on the run because of that horrible situation. And many organizations, including MIRA. And
they still without any date of go to court, they cannot work, and they still without any kind of protection is terrible. And we will inform to you in that date, August 8th at the Catholic Church, 6 p.m. in Canton. Thank you.
Hey,
have a good day, everybody.
Thank you so much. You have a good day as well. I would now like very much to introduce the next essential worker, former employee, and she can tell us her story at this time. I'm going to invite to the screen Stephanie Colburn, who was actually recommended to us by State Representative Ricky Thompson, who's also a board member of the Mississippi Workers Center for Human Rights. He shared her story with us, and we've been working with her along with two incredible law interns who've been working with us to help us develop her case, a discrimination case that sounds in Americans with Disabilities Act and retaliation, actually. So we'd like for Ms. Colburn to come to the screen at this time and share with us what happened to you. And of course, feel free to share what happened to your husband as well. Ms. Colburn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Well, my story is that I worked at the Meadows, and actually April would have been my 20th year there. And my husband tested positive for the virus, and he actually passed from it in April. And that's when I lost my job there. But I'm sorry, this is emotional for me. I apologize, but
it's okay.
So on April the 9th, I was at work, and I was in the room with the patient, and one of the nurses come to the door and told me I had a phone call. So I left out the room, and I went to the phone. I answered the phone. It was the nurse practitioner from the clinic that he had went to. And she told me that I had to leave work because my husband's results come back and they were positive. And so I told her, okay, I will leave. Well, when I had come out of the room, the DON was standing there, which was unusual, but she was standing there. When the nurse practitioner told me, she said, I will talk to your supervisor if you need me to. And I said, well, she's right here. I could tell her. You know, I was telling her what the nurse practitioner was telling me on the phone. And so as I was telling the DON that I had to leave because my husband had tested positive, you know, she said, yeah, she said, you'll have to quarantine for 14 days. And I said, okay. So as I was going to give her the phone, but she was scared to take the phone. So I asked the nurse that was sitting there behind the desk to get a glove and put the glove on to get the phone and sanitize it because I had to leave. And so she did. And so as I headed out the building, my DON, she was following me. And the only thing, she just kept saying that she was sorry, you know, that I had to leave and had to go quarantine, and she was sorry for my husband, you know, testing positive. So she followed me out the door, you know, well, to the time clock room. And, you know, she just kept saying, Stephanie, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So as I headed up, I clocked out and I headed out the door and I went to my vehicle. When I got down the road a little bit, she called me on the cell phone and she told me that I had to go get tested. So I went and got tested. And during the time of, after I had got tested, and I come home and I talked to my kids, and I got my husband situated. And so we were separated from the kids. I had him in the room, and I the only one who was taking care of him. And so after I had got home and got him situated, he just, after he found out he tested positive, it just kind of did something to him. So it just kind of got worse. So as I was taking care of him on that Friday, the nurse practitioner called me and told me that he probably needs to go to the hospital because he couldn't keep anything down. He was just getting worse. So I talked to him, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. So he just told me to just continue letting her know what was going on. So I did. But he didn't make it. He died that Saturday morning. And after trying to get him situated so we could also be at the funeral, I was having a hard time trying to find a funeral home to take his body and to wait and let us be at the funeral. So in the meantime, while I'm trying to do that, I get a call from the nursing home, and it was the DON. And she asked me, she said, Stephanie, did you know your husband was sick? And I said, Miss Evans, I said, you found out the same time that I found out that he was sick. I said, And when I had called in, I told you I was sick first. And so she said, well, but you come to work. And I said, I did, but I wasn't running the fever. He wasn't running the fever at the time. I said, so nothing had really changed. And so, and I started crying, and I did say, I said, well, there was no way I would come to work and put my residents in danger. I said, I love my residents, and there was no way I would put them in danger. So the next voice I hear was Miss Stacy C. And so she said, well, Stephanie, she said, I have to do what's right for my residents. So I'm gonna have to terminate your employment. And she said, I love you. And she just hung up the phone. Well, I just sat there and I cried because I had lost my husband. And then I had lost my job. And there was no way I could afford to pay for a funeral or have just living for my kids. Because he was on disability and I'm the only one that works. And so, you know, that was our livelihood. So, and I wasn't on SNAP, or I couldn't get SNAP. I couldn't get no assistance because I worked all the time. And I had to work because that was, like I said, that was our livelihood. And so after that, it's just been so hard for us, you know. And like you said, they are talking about ending the unemployment, and that's all I get right now. So, I mean, this, and thanks to Miss Hill and her, you know, they have been helping me a lot, and I really appreciate it.
Well, Ms. Colburn, thank you so much for your courage. Our hearts are broken for you. What happened to you was certainly beyond an injustice, beyond that. Just really, really. And you all should know too that the defendant is appealing the unemployment that she was granted, the benefits that she was granted. The employer has filed an appeal to try to snatch those benefits. And y'all want to know why BRENDA and Sanchione and Jaribu are crazy Black women foaming at the mouth? This is why. This is why. You already have taken everything from her, and now you want to take the unemployment benefits. So this is not something I can be objective about it. I can't even. I'm just holding myself together by a thread right now because I have to be strong for Ms. Colburn and what she's going through. We will keep you abreast. We plan, no matter what, to seek justice and get justice for her. And we want to do the same for other workers. We know the struggle. We know the struggle that workers go through. And what BRENDA said earlier about people coming together and about that being the reason why we can't really, really get the victories that we so richly deserve. We need to think about it, think about ways that we can come together and support each other as opposed to siding with the boss against the workers. We have to side with the workers. And I don't know what folks' different orientations are on the phone in terms of working class people, in terms of working with the working poor, but I know for a fact that some of the issues that have been raised today by Sister Bell, by Sister Colburn, and the advocates, the organizers that have spoken before, these issues have to be lifted up continuously, and they do, in fact, go hand in hand with some of the legislative provisions that our Black Caucus and other user-friendly caucus members have tried to put through. And we know there have been so many proposals, housing proposals for people who, like Ms. Colburn, are not working in jobs where they're going to get the hazard pay, where they're going to get the time off, the paid sick leave. We know that there have been proposals that the hostile administration, the hostile government has shut down, from the federal to the state, to the local, okay? And thanks to some text messages, I've been getting them. Now, I've gotten some text messages from my senator. I've been briefed and brought up to date by Brenda and Sanchione and others. And I know for a fact that there is no leadership, no real leadership at the federal or the state level regarding this pandemic, and that workers are just being thrown away. And you heard Ms. Colburn, she cared about her patients. What does she get for being dedicated to her job for 20 years? And when the supervisor fired her, she said, "I love you." Can you imagine someone telling you, "But I got to take your job," and kick you to the curb? So this is what workers are dealing with. No federal mask mandate, no statewide mandate. Only, from what I understand, 13 counties are mandated to mask up. And if that's changed, let us know. Please let us know if that's changed. So many leaders are playing politics and not following the science, not following the science. So we are deeply in a pandemic. And what we need to do is we need to look at how can we be supportive? How can we show up when we can? Now we're in COVID, can't go to the Capitol, can't go anywhere in public. You got to shelter in place if you can. But when it's time to really raise our fist in the air and resist, we got to be there. We got to be there for state workers. We got to be there for Ms. Colburn and all the Colburns, all the Stephanies, all the Tamikos. We got to be there for all the Moseses. We got to be there for our people. And that's what this is all about this morning. And I just appreciate the opportunity for us to be able to put this stuff on blast this morning, to have a platform to do so. And I would now like, and thank you so much, Ms. Colburn, and we will circle back if you have any other comments later. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for everything that you shared with us. We know what it took for you to share what you shared this morning. And we won't soon forget it. We will not. Thank you so much. I see that someone has raised their hand in the chat. Kimmy Rolay from National Employment Law Project has raised her hand. That's the first hand raise I've seen. So I want to acknowledge Kimmy. Okay, thank you. All right, we now have the pleasure of introducing another fighter. Mommy. Oh, Kimmy, go ahead. Kimmy? Okay, this technology. All right, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and introduce.
Ms. Hill is saying that she needs to unmute.
Oh, okay, unmute.
Stop. Good morning, Jaribu. I wasn't able to unmute myself. That was actually my son, Omar. But now that I'm here, I just wanted to share my gratitude to you all for holding this space.
And I want to play cards.
Yes. And Ms. Colburn, I just want to share such deep gratitude for how you shared and for sharing your story with us this morning, and for all of you for sharing with us what's happening on the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimmy Rolay, another outstanding freedom fighter in her own right, my partner in crime with the National Employment Law Project. Thank you so much, Kimmy, for being with us and voicing your gratitude. We also voice gratitude to you as well. Okay, it's now my pleasure to introduce Sanchione Butler, who is with the Mississippi AFL-CIO, and her real title is Political Campaign Manager Organizer. Sanchione Butler is a Southern-based organizer with 15 years plus experience. And I want to share this quote that Sanchione believes the common thread through all of these experiences is the innate belief that our institution will only flourish if members and future members are given the tools to advocate for themselves. And that is absolutely what this is all about. Every program that we have ever had across 20 some years, and I can vouch for other organizations that are on this screen, we always showcase workers. We always bring workers up to the fore so they can tell their own stories. And so Sanchione, thank you for that wisdom. Thank you for that message, which guides us that once workers are given the tools, they can advocate for themselves. And tell us how you as an organizer are able to do that and share anything else that you plan to share at this time. Thank you, Sanchione.
Thank you, Jaribu, for giving me such a warm and kind introduction. And I just want to say good morning to everybody. I want to say my heart goes out to Ms. Colburn and her family. Thank you for your courage, and for the other workers who had the courage to speak up this morning. I also want to thank Senator Turner Ford and the Black Caucus. It's a pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to speak on behalf of labor, as always, and also on behalf of the Mississippi AFL-CIO. The mission of organized labor is to improve the lives of our members. The two essential requirements in fulfilling that charge is organizing and politics. The core mission of the Mississippi Labor Task Force is to engage in strategic communications so that Black and brown workers build power and gain access to safe and quality jobs, as well as work on policy creation and build partnerships that will achieve impact towards winning on issues that affect Black and brown workers. As organized labor, we engage in political action for a single purpose. At every level of government, it is our duty to elect officials who embrace the goals of the trade union movement. As elected officials, you have the power to enact the laws that can improve labor's ability to organize, to collective bargain, to ensure fairness in the workplace, to set adequate safety standards, to guarantee that all have the opportunity to provide for their families, to provide health care and retirement security to workers, their families, and retired Americans, and to set economic policies that protect and create good jobs for Mississippians. To succeed, labor must have a strong relationship with our elected officials who control the levers of power. For the labor movement to advance in our state, we must continue to seek and elect candidates and incumbents who stand on labor issues and issues that matter to all workers. Our political principles are for the union movement. Our political principles must work for working families. We as labor must continue to build coalitions on each and every issue. We must embrace the idea that today's opponent may be tomorrow's ally. Labor will always have its stalwart supporters who champion our position on every issue. But the days of having a large enough majority in and of itself can do our bidding when called are history. We must work both sides of the political aisle and develop meaningful and lasting relationships with both parties, regardless of which is in the majority. We must move on our issues. We must move our issues forward and develop a worker majority for union families. Working politics for working families is the key to a better future for our great state and for the union movement and for future union activists. I want to just end by saying there's 8 things that we need to consider when we talk about or we think about unions. Unions are responsible for weekends off, paid vacations, the Family Medical Leave Act, breaks at work, including lunch, sick leave, military leave, and a 40-hour work week. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchione. Thank you so much. Powerful as usual, not surprising. I want to lift up a few other demands that essential workers in the private sector need in terms of having the same protections. And we are a human rights organization, the Mississippi Workers Center. We are a pro-union organization. We are not anti-labor. We're not anti-unions, but we understand that 5% of or less of the population have that right now. Their right is recognized to be part of a union. And we believe that that is a human right. We believe all workers should have the right and should be members of labor unions. And while that struggle is being waged all across this country, it has to be waged with intensity in the Deep South, where slavery was born, where uncompensated labor built this country. We have to really hunker down and buckle down and figure out how can we organize our folks. So some of the demands that resonate when you talk about essential workers: paid time off, paid sick leave, a living wage, freedom from discrimination, freedom from retaliation. You heard Ms. Colburn's story where when she was diagnosed, she was fired. That's retaliation. Healthcare and more workers' compensation benefits, access to testing, a clean and safe work environment, protection from unemployment, hazard pay, PPE, PPE, PPE. And all of these demands coincide with the demands of organized labor, coincide with the demands of workers' centers like the Mississippi Workers' Center that's been around since December 30th, 1996. We have always been in partnership and in solidarity. Some of our most powerful work has been done in partnership with and in coalition with organized labor. So we are deeply grateful for that connection. We're deeply grateful for the insight that's been shared. The ballot box is key and important, but so is accountability. We appreciate the Black Caucus for stepping up and standing up for our people. Those of you who don't have the luxury in your region to have a sizable population of Black Caucus members, you still have to hold those folks' feet to the fire wherever they are, because after all, your tax dollars put them there. Your votes may not have put them in directly, but you still have to fight the good fight. And we know places where, North Mississippi in particular, where Ms. Colburn is from, my goodness, I can tell you stories, but I won't right now. We know some folks are living in more hostile areas than others. And so we fight that fight, we stand together. All of our speakers have spoken, who've been programmed to speak, invited to speak. And we also, again, just want to thank the Mississippi Labor Task Force for hosting a series of meetings prior to this where we could collect our thoughts and be on one accord in terms of the issues that we would bring you this morning. This was a total collective effort, beginning with some early conversations with state legislators in the Black Caucus. Of course, all of the folks on the screen were part of that and still working hard to make sure these platform issues come up. I did get another text and I wanted to share it with you. Person who is a state representative told me to make sure to talk about the fact that some new state bills that protect employers from being sued if their workers contract COVID-19 while being employed by business owners. Well, you know, that remains to be seen. And there are waivers out there where people have had to sign them to go back to work saying, if you get COVID, you're not going to sue me. Well, guess what? You can hang that anywhere you want to hang it, but it's not going to fly. It is not going to fly in any reputable court of law, okay? Waivers like that can be defeated. And so can legislation that's unconstitutional, that strangles workers and keeps them from suing the employer if the employer was negligent. If you had a duty to protect your employees and you did not, and because of that, you didn't give me a mask, you didn't sanitize the workplace, you knew that there were people diagnosed and you didn't protect me and you didn't protect them, I got COVID because of it, please. Negligence, breach of duty. Have you ever heard of it? Okay, breach of duty. So all these waivers and all these ways, these threats that they're making, saying that you can't sue, don't listen to that without talking to a people's lawyer. Okay, don't listen to that without talking to a labor organizer or a workers' rights person. Don't buy it. Don't buy what they're selling unless there's nothing else on the shelf. And even then, push it off the shelf. Push it off the shelf. That's my 2 cents. Okay, it's time now to open it up. I don't know, I see only 2 messages in the chat. So I guess I want to know if there is a Q&A that I don't see underneath my screen, on the bottom of my screen, where there may have been questions. Otherwise, I'll just open it up to questions. Okay, I see Sister Scott's hand.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to Senator Turner Ford, because I know that out of the CARES money, there was an agenda, an act put forth by the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus that would have addressed hazardous pay, money for the HBCUs, and all of that. I think it was like $467 million. And if you would let us know about how much CARES money is actually coming to this state. And I think that according to Representative Amira Scott, she was saying you all ended up with 0.0007% of the money, $100,000 here, $200,000 there. I think that's an opportunity for people in the listening audience to understand that you all are fighting the good fight. You just don't have the support among the supermajority at the State House.
You're correct, Ms. Scott. You know, early on, I would say even before COVID came on the scene and there was the first case diagnosed in the state of Mississippi, the Legislative Black Caucus assembled an agenda. And we wanted to make sure as we went into the legislative session that we had goals in mind, that we introduced certain bills to address issues that were specific to members in the members of our communities. We requested the expansion of Medicaid. We knew that there were teacher shortages throughout the education system. We wanted bills, laws adjusted to address those issues. And those, I would say for the most part, you know, there were a few items that we were able to move forward, but for the most part, those issues fell on deaf ears. And then the session was recessed as a result of COVID. And we went back and gathered together again and came out with another set of priorities because we knew that we had to adjust based on the changing times. And we knew that the CARES Act money was coming from the federal government, I think $1.2 billion. We advanced a plan for community business development. We asked for assistance for our HBCUs. We asked for housing assistance. We wanted programs and dollars allocated in food deserts to help make sure that members of the Black community were healthy and that we could do things to improve our situation. And it's just, broadband, of course, was one of those issues, and we just have not been able to get much traction. Now, all of the COVID dollars have not been spent. There are budgets that are still currently pending, but unless we get the help of the community and issues such as these rallying behind us, spreading the message and impressing upon our colleagues across the aisle to join in and coalesce with us, I don't know that we're going to see COVID dollars coming into our communities like they need to. So as it was mentioned early on, the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus has been an organized group since 1976. Members have come and gone. This organization is still standing. We have 52 members who are members of the Mississippi Senate, as well as the Mississippi House of Representatives. We've tried to take our fight, because unless you all are aware of the bills that we are introducing, people in the community don't know what we're fighting for.
That's right.
So that's why we've tried to increase our social media presence. You may see us issuing press releases, but we have to, one reason that we're having calls such as these is an opportunity for us to listen, but also we want to engage you all to help us share and spread the message for what we are trying to do. Because if we can't win in what to us is a supermajority, we have to appeal to the court of public opinion. Mm-hmm. And I placed in our chat box earlier our legislative website, and that is www.mississippi www.legislature.ms.gov. And there are certain tabs that you can follow, and you can click and find your senator, your representative. You can look at each bill that he or she has introduced. You can pull up a bill that's been introduced by someone else, and you can actually go through and check the voting record, because that is what you need to use and rely on to determine who should get your vote. That's how you know who is advocating for you and who's not. So it's one thing for us to say something on a Zoom call or on a stump speech when we're out campaigning, or if we've been called to a forum, but there's something else to be said about when you look on the legislative website and you see that your senator has voted against the COVID funding proposal, or that it won't even make it out of committee. So you're correct, Ms. Scott. We asked early on because we knew the money was coming. And up to this point, we have not received a favorable response for some of the issues that we know that we need to improve our communities, but we're not done. We're going to recirculate our proposals. We need to make sure that our networks and relationships are shored up. The Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus is here to help, and we want to advocate on behalf of you all. So we're recessed currently, and there are media reports that there will be additional funds coming from the federal government. We don't know exactly how they're going to be dispersed, but we will be called back to address further economic issues. Please monitor our Facebook page. We'll be sending messages there. Our other social media outlets, newsletters. Engage with us and help us to share the message. And if you know of someone in your area, in your district, that is not supporting what we're supporting, but you know that our interests are in your favor, reach out to them, call them, email. So we just have to gather together, and where we're not receiving support in the State House, we need it in the community.
Senator Turner Ford, while we have you on screen, looking lovely, by the way. Thank you so much, Sister Scott, for bringing those issues to the fore. And I did have another follow-up question on a possible direct action that we might be able to do. Is it helpful or powerful at this point to consider making a petition type demand on some of the issues that you all have brought up that are so critical and crucial for our people? I'm thinking about the Essential Worker Support Fund. Is there still time for that to be considered the next round? And what can we do to help bolster support for that? How can we be more helpful now that we are more knowledgeable? How can we be more helpful in terms of trying to get some of these really crucial demands over the top?
I believe it will be, when we recessed back in March, one of the documents that we adopted, we actually changed all of our deadlines as it relates to COVID. So the deadline that we have now is that COVID dollars that have been allocated at present, we would have to go in and address those by October the 5th. So the short answer to your question is yes, we should begin circulating this message of the Essential Workers Fund in our communities. The more that we bring it to the forefront, it's in the media, it's in the minds and the thoughts of our colleagues. I believe that it would put us in a position where, as a caucus, when we return to the Capitol, we can begin to push forward, and that message will be ahead of us before we show up. So we will get some information to you all, Ms. Hill, Ms. Butler, Ms. Scott, and to the other advocates on the call, so we can circulate that message. And it's the Essential Workers Fund. We just need to talk about it. It needs to be a campaign, and we want that message to permeate throughout our communities. So let us work together on that and make sure that that's something that we can put forward. And that's our call to action. This is what this is an issue that our essential workers need. That fund, the term of it, the fact that it even is an idea, needs to be circulating in the community, and we need to do that immediately.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And we will do our part. We really will. Our fearless leader, Sanchione, the Mississippi Labor Task Force, we will do our part for sure. We'll join with Sister Scott and Sister Butler, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Mississippi Workers Center. We will stand with you and we'll work as hard as we can, do what we can. We have some porch drops coming up where we're going to be knocking on your door real quick and dropping a couple of masks, a Kroger gift card, and some other stuff. We'd love to have a piece that we could put in those baggies about the Essential Worker Support Fund. We'd love to be able to help get that out, push it out through the media and other ways as well. So yes, let's work closely together. Sister Lula Townsend said that she had a question, and I see that she is in the chat and I can recognize her now, I think, if the technology allows me to recognize Lula Townsend, who has a question. Good morning.
Thank you for all of the presenters. This has been very informative, and I will be taking this information to the community with all of the organizations that I am affiliated with. But the question I have for Senator Turner is, since we do have members of the Senate and the House now that have contracted the COVID virus, do you think that there would be some reconsiderations of some of the actions that you all were trying to bring forth earlier? And maybe since the virus is real to them now, will there be any reconsiderations of any of the bills that you all were trying to bring forward earlier?
I would certainly hope so. I think in a lot of ways, when we've heard the media reports, and I've experienced it, when we showed up to the Capitol, there were certain protocols that were in place, and we became lax. Now, there were some who were just totally against wearing masks. The seating arrangements evolved, but COVID has actually hit home that's the best way that I would know to phrase it in terms of the legislature. And some of the cases that were diagnosed in the legislature, I know those people personally. And those that we're serving with know them personally as well. So it's been brought to the forefront. This is not just a virus that's looming out in the community and you see cases and reports in New York. This is actually going on right here in the state of Mississippi. So I believe that would increase the compassion, the consideration, and to help bring awareness to the issue. I hope my restful thought is, yes, I hope that it will put us in a position to say, advocate, and push for some of the relief that we were looking for early on, but we will certainly revisit it and ask and make the request and demand as much as we can. Now that it's become personal, I think that should make a difference.
Well, thank you so much. And also not only to Senator Turner, but to Mrs. Hill, Ms. Butler, and the others who are on the forefronts of justice, Ms. Scott, thank you for your efforts also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Townsend. Good to see you again. And thank you so much for that question. Want to remind folks, in case they don't know, I know we're in Mississippi. I know that we are Blacker than most states in terms of our population, but let's not forget that most people in this world are poor white people.
Amen.
And the problem with we didn't racialize it. We never have as Black workers or brown workers, but it's interesting how some of these folks will vote against their constituents. And so that's something that has to be driven home somehow. If there wasn't such polarization, between Black and white, if there was a way for white workers to understand that we are not the enemy, right? And we understand that they're in the majority in terms of poverty, but poverty has been ethnicized because of racism. So Ms. Townsend's point is very well taken. What are those folks gonna do who are from other counties outside of where we live? who contracted the virus, and some folks have contracted the virus because they have adopted the no mask policy all the way from the White House. That is just a death sentence. That's what that is. And so we definitely know the numbers are dismal in terms of our numbers of folks who can protect us. All we ask is that you let us know what can we do to make it louder, to make it bigger. Even with smaller numbers and smaller dollars, we can still make it louder and make it bigger. Are there any other questions? Ms. Scott, did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say that people like Senator Turner and our legislative Black caucus, these people are our friends. You all need to focus on the other side. And I did want to ask her, is it a way that we could get some kind of legislative approach to dealing with COVID instead of the governor issuing executive orders? Because we know if the president said it's going to come out in an executive order, we need a legislative approach to dealing with this virus that we're facing. So I know that's probably going to be impossible. I know that they have, even though you all had an opportunity to pass legislation, he had the right to name a committee to deal with it. And I'm just wondering if any of these essential people, workers, are sitting on that decision-making board that's going to come up to define where the money is going to go. Because we don't need people speaking for us that has a golden spoon in their mouths. So I don't know if that's possible, but that's really what we need. We're tired of the executive orders.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, the executive orders, what you're saying, the legislature has been acting on the budgetary issues, you know, the
Right.
appropriations and looking at the financial aspect of it. But especially when we are not in session, it is the governor's function, you know, to issue these orders that address these immediate needs. And as far as I know, he's the only actor that's in a position to do it. Certainly the legislature could implement some of these policies, but I think based on what I've seen and how this seems to be playing out, there just really is, based on the political will of the legislature, there has just been no real push to address some of these issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions as our time is drawing to a close? Before I turn it back to our fearless leader, Senator Turner Ford, I want to make sure that I haven't left someone out who has a question or a thought. I want to just quickly go to our panelists quickly to see if anyone would like to check in again with our audience or with our Legislative Black Caucus members around any points. We've heard, of course, the demand for an essential worker support fund, and we are offering ourselves up to help push that, to help campaign for that to happen. There are other proposals that have been brought. Some of the legislators have sent text messages about issues that are critical to our people, and my thanks to all of the Black Caucus members who've guided us through this process and, you know, given us the platform. Yesterday, Sanchione and I and a member of BRENDA's union were on a Zoom call again. And we were like saying, wow, we're going to be on again tomorrow morning. But it's been encouraging these last few days. One Voice hosted the one that we were on yesterday. So it's been encouraging in terms of getting voices out there, getting information out there. So we're just looking to see what can we do to make a difference in an urgent way. What can we do in this state of emergency? What is it that we can accomplish to make them see? How can we get with some of the white labor leaders to get them to move towards some of these folks who are standing still based on race and race privilege? How can we get them to move past that white supremacy, past the racism, to address needs of their own people? How can we get them to do that? Because that is going to be an issue. And I understand we have the highest number of legislators in the country, state legislators in the country that have the COVID virus. There's like, I think 78 and 51 are in Mississippi, and some of them are our close friends. And so with our thoughts are going out to those, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know if it's public, but there are those of you who are close to people, you know who I'm talking about. And our thoughts and prayers go out to them and their families at this time. With that said, I would yes.
I think there's Mr. Chandler is asked, Bill Chandler's asking to be recognized.
Okay.
Do you see him on your screen?
I do not. I do not.
Hold on just a moment. If you could just unmute your device, Mr. Chandler.
Okay, I don't know how to use chat, and I was trying to use it for the first time in my life. I'm sorry, I had to actually physically raise my hand. But with the legislature, the Mississippi Immigrant Rights Alliance really appreciates the support that the Mississippi Black Legislative Caucus has given to the struggle of the immigrants here. There's been over 300 bad bills that have been killed, and sometime back 6 good bills that were actually authored by caucus members that were enacted. But we have a problem right now. One is that Chris McDaniels, I'm sure everybody knows, and Becky Currier are the main antagonists against immigrants, and they're the ones that initiate bills. But also Senator Brandon from Neshoba County is another problem. But she introduced 2 contradictory bills. One of them was good and one was bad on the same subject. They're both dead. But one of the problems that naturalized citizens have legally is that oftentimes they're required to produce all of their papers to a circuit clerk when they're attempting to register to vote. And that bill was one of the nasty bills that was passed in 1924 during the height of the racist attacks, not only on African Americans, but Latinos and Asians and so on, that was going on in this country. But that the circuit clerks have not, as far as we know, have not attempted to demand that a naturalized citizen produce the papers. We're trying to get rid of that bill. We have a lawsuit pending, but if we could get a bill introduced to get rid of it in the coming session, that would be the easiest and the cheapest way to do it. But we have been registering voters as fast as they become citizens to participate, and also the League of Women Voters has been doing the same thing depending on where the hearings are at. And we want to make it easier or really remove potential blocks from people actually registering and voting.
Thank you so much, Bill. And Senator Turner Ford, did you have a comment or response to that, an immediate response to that?
I do. Thank you, Ms. Hill, and thank you, Mr. Chandler, for raising that issue. The best way for us or you all as advocates to engage with the caucus, what we're doing and what we did last year, we had a process where we have an issues and policy committee, and that committee will start meeting probably in September or October. And depending on what's going on with COVID, we may have to engage advocates via Zoom or some other type of method. But that is the time when we are receiving issues from advocates, constituents, people in the community, and we are working to determine what our agenda will be going into January. And to the extent that you all can get something to us, the caucus can decide if that's going to be one of our priorities. We can put that on our agenda, make sure that those bills are introduced in the House and in the Senate. And, that's what we will advocate for. So I think that that's definitely an issue that we need to discuss. I don't see where there will be any opposition for the caucus taking that on as one of the bills that we would get behind, but this is our process. And it worked well for us last year. We're going to do it again. And so that's information that can be spread to other groups for other issues. Make sure that the caucus receives this September, October. We will put it on our agenda and we will make sure that we move it and try to bring some visibility to it. And it's the same as the Essential Workers Fund. With these issues that we know are affecting voters, our constituents, we can appeal to public opinion. We can make this a part of our media approach and make sure that these are issues and sound bites that are being dropped and that our constituents across the aisle hear them, that their constituents are asking about them, and we can bring them to the forefront. So let's just make sure, Mr. Chandler, that we get that issue before the caucus, and I feel confident that it will be a part of our agenda.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. This has just been too much, I'm telling you. It's been amazing. I want to make sure that Sanchione, did you have any final thoughts? And Ms. Colburn, if you're still on, and Tamiko, wanted to make sure if you all had any final thoughts. And then the next voice after that you hear will be the voice of Senator Turner Ford to close us out with her closing remarks and marching orders for us. Anyone else have any? Yes, Sanchione.
I just want to let Senator Turner know that, you know, we appreciate and receive the call to action, and the task force plans on meeting, and hopefully we can have a couple of things that we can get to the committee, you know, before your September, October deadline. So, you know, and just thank you for the opportunity again to be able to be on this panel and be a part of the discussion.
All right, and Sanchione, looking forward to working with you and Brenda and James Evans and Bill Chandler, Dolores Lee, and others to make that happen. Now it is my pleasure to turn back to you, Senator Turner Ford, with my thanks on behalf of the Mississippi Workers Center for Human Rights and the Mississippi Labor Task Force and all those on this call. Thank you so much for convening it. Thank you for guiding us through this process, for answering the many text messages and phone calls. And I want you to know that I'm a living witness that you are certainly doing your dad proud.
Yes.
Father listened to us when hardly anyone else would. And I remember, and everybody sitting here was at the meeting that he hosted to try to get more workers' compensation benefits. And he was the one who was able to get the Mississippi Manufacturers Association representative at that time, Jay Moon, to the table. He offered up his conference room. He served us lunch, and he stuck with us. So he is super proud of you as an ancestor looking down. So Senator Turner Ford, I turn it back to you at this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Hill. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Thank you, Ms. Butler, Mr. Chandler, and all of the other advocates that are on the call, and to you, the constituents. And Ms. Colburn, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. And I know it's difficult to have to revisit, you know, what you're going through, but this is when you hear, it's one thing to actually serve in the State House, but it's really important when we hear the stories and we have a greater understanding of what the people in the community are suffering with. It motivates us. It gives us, I would say, some of the tools that we need to push back, to continue to argue and to advocate on behalf of the constituents in our district. Now, to Ms. Butler, it's not a deadline of September or October. That's when we will start. So we still have time. And what we did before was that we actually, during those series of months leading up to January, we met with the community advocates, and the caucus decided and voted on what the priorities would be. And I think that vote, I'm not sure if that vote, the final vote last time took place, I think in January, but I would like us to maybe have that agenda tightened and compiled maybe December, November, and that way we can get the message out to the community. So we will send that call invite forward and try to get it out to as many people as possible. Okay. And you'll be receiving that.
Thank
you. To all of you who have shared this morning, I am tremendously grateful. This is tough work. It's tough work, and the positions that you all are in are tough also. You know, with COVID-19, this is a global pandemic. We've not experienced it. We don't have the immunity to fight it. And we're just kind of having to go along and buckle down and work as hard as we can. At the same time, our communities have needs, and they've had these needs a very long time. We just have to continue to work together. We cannot afford to continue to work in our individual silos and hope that we are going to be successful. Mm-hmm. We still, you know, according to the reports from scientists, we still have not seen the worst of this. And the best thing that we can do is to continue to produce positive messages, or messages that we know are going to help us, masking up, maintaining social distance, protecting our essential workers. Hear us, see us, we're here. There are things that we need. And the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus is making itself available to do that. But it's not just about you all reaching out to caucus members. Those who are not members of the caucus have a vote as well. And we all have to work across the aisle, as Ms. Butler mentioned. It's about politics. It's about trying to move the needle. It's about raising arguments. And even if they don't hear us and respond, we will continue to shout the message, to proclaim that there are things that our communities need. So in order for the community and the economy to continue, it needs workers. But those workers need to be protected. Our families need to be protected. And as a member of the Mississippi State Senate, a member of the Mississippi State Legislature, we rely on those who are engaged in the work to inform us, to educate us, and to also help us share and spread the message to the community. So I'm here to help, the caucus is here to help. Call on us. We will be more than willing to listen, because we know that we're all in this together. So we thank you for your time this morning. Thank you, Ms. Hill, Ms. Scott, Ms. Butler, Ms. Colburn, Mr. Chandler, Ms. Townsend from my district, for all of you who have come on and shared with us. And let's continue to move this issue. And this is not the last time that you will be hearing from the caucus regarding essential workers. So thank you, Ms. Hill. Thank you all, and we will end the call at this time.
All right.